Before we get into our next Dandy's World update, which will bring us 3 toon optimizations and 2 brand new floors, let's get into some interesting topics that Quell has been discussing with other users on the Dandy's World Discord. This user had an interesting question that I'm sure other people have also wondered. They asked, question, since Dandy is non-playable by way of regular and widely accessed means, is there a dialogue between him and other toons when in the elevator that players don't know about? So this user's asking, does Dandy have secret dialogues with other toons that we don't know about, that maybe only the dev team knows about? Quell replied saying, nah, he doesn't interact with anyone. Okay, so that means that Dandy doesn't have any dialogues in the elevator with other toons. We already know that Dandy talks about other toons in the shop gossip, but to directly talk to other toons, like in the elevator, we've never seen that before. This user replied to Quell saying, will he in the future? Quell then said, no need to. He isn't playable by anyone but me. It is true, I've only ever seen Quell play Dandy, so if there were any elevator dialogues between Dandy and other toons, it might only be unofficial dialogues that only Quell knows about. Maybe one day Quell will give us an unofficial dialogue between Dandy and other toons in the elevator. That would be so awesome. Our next topic is about Brussia and Tisha. The most misunderstood duo are getting new lore in the future, and Quell also talks about the possibility of using Brussia's aura mechanic on future toons. This user said, it would be nice if there was an update that did focus on plot, lore, storyline, etc. I just do hope for Brussia and Tisha's unfinished lore to be complete. Many people in the fandom are misunderstood with her. So this Discord user wants Quell and the dev team to really complete the Brussia and Tisha lore storyline. It does seem like there's some lore missing as to what really happened between Brussia and Tisha, why they are butting heads together all the time. And because of Brussia and Tisha's rocky relationship, it has caused a lot of misunderstanding in the fandom. What's really going on? What really happened between them? Quell actually replied saying, I honestly love writing Brussia, so I'd love to explore more when I'm realistically able there, but I think I'd want to focus on some other characters that need some more info shared or just content that have been around a bit longer. Like, I've been wanting to make some new posters featuring more characters. Like, it'd be cool if I could sit down and make a poster of the circus trio. So it seems like Brussia and Tisha lore is being pushed back a tiny bit whilst Quell focuses on some other toons that haven't had much lore surrounding them, like the circus trio. The closest thing we have to a circus poster is the teaser image for Yatta before Yatta was released. But Brussia and Tisha fans, the dev team are working on more lore, so that's nice. And Quell did say that she honestly loves writing Brussia, so in the future I can definitely see some more Brussia lore. Hopefully we can get some information on what really happened between Brussia and Tisha. Quell also said, I was just gonna say all the Brussia skins that didn't have a custom art should have custom art now. As you know, when Brussia has a new skin, usually Brussia's animation will get new artwork to match the skin. Now they all have different paintings. Quell has cleared up any confusion surrounding Toy Kit and how it affects other toons' active abilities like Gordy. This user asked, does anyone know if Bobbit's trinket rework works on Gordy? Quell said it works for Brussia and Bobbit currently. So that's for the Toy Kit trinket. It only works for Brussia and Bobbit currently. This user replied to Quell saying, currently, do you mean it's going to change in the near future? Or just questioning wording? I can see where this user's coming from because Quell said currently. Does that mean in the future we may get toons with more aura abilities like Brussia and Bobbit? Quell cleared up any confusion saying, currently as in we may have new toons introduced in the future who also have a ring effect. No plans currently though. So it is a possibility that in the future we could get toons like Brussia and Bobbit who have a constant ring effect of surrounding their toon, a passive or a toggle like Brussia. Therefore the Toy Kit trinkets will have that constant buff for the aura ability for any future toons. This user asked a very interesting question saying, is it eventually going to extend to Gordy? Asking because you said currently. Also, hi Quell, I hope you're having a nice Christmas. Quell replied saying, nah, it's for like the circle aura thing that Brussia and Bobbit have. So for anyone wondering if toy kits will ever work on Gordy, because as you know, when Gordy uses his active ability, there's a radius in which the active ability works in. So this user's wondering, will toy kits ever affect Gordy's active ability? And Quell said no. So that means Astro as well. As you know, Astro also has a similar ability to Gordy, where there's a radius in which the active ability works in. So I'm also assuming that Astro's active ability will never benefit from toy kits either. Another question about toggle abilities and auras. This user asked, would more toggle ability toons be considered in the future? Since I think Brussia is the only one so far. And that is true, Brussia is the only toon with a toggle ability. And it's also an aura, like Bobbit. Quell replied saying, I've always liked the idea of more, but no promises, you know. So again, in the future, we could get some toggle ability toons like Brussia, where you turn on the ability and it will work for as long as the ability is on, and then you can turn it off when you like. I feel like as a game developer, you could do so much with toggle abilities. And moving on to lore, this user asked a very important question that I'm sure a lot of you are also asking. They said, Quell, please, when are you really going to put the game's lore as the main focus instead of other things? Before we get into Quell's reply, the Dandy's World lore is so important. It feels like a large majority of the player base, a large majority of the fandom love the Dandy's World lore. They love Delilah or hate Delilah, depending on who you ask. They love the secrecy, but with the secrecy, the fandom also wants some answers as well. Just small bits of lore here and there goes a long way with the fandom, and the fandom are hungry for more lore. Quell replied saying, when I can, I do a lot of different things for Dandy's World, so my time can end up split sometimes, depending on what's necessary, but I love to focus more into lore and characters that deserve more content when I'm realistically able to. So Quell basically said lore takes up a lot of time as well. It's not as easy as, you know, putting some things together. It needs to flow well, it needs to be clear and concise, it needs to be exciting. You can imagine as a game developer, trying to juggle the gameplay and trying to juggle lore as well can be so difficult. We have to remember that Dandy's World is still an alpha, and in terms of lore, we have gotten quite a lot of lore and it's been exciting. It's not too much lore. It's nice to have lore slowly introduced into the game to keep the excitement, to keep the suspense. And whilst we're talking about lore, this user asked, hey Quell, this is very unrelated, but I've taken an interest to Shelly's sewing friend. I'm not sure if it's actually Rebecca, but I don't think so because I don't know if Rebecca was planned all the way in Sprout's update. Are we gonna hear about the friend soon? And this user is talking about an interaction between Shelly and Sprout, where Shelly says, oh, I have a friend who's teaching me about sewing. And they're wondering, could this be about Rebecca? Because as you know, Rebecca's trinket is of a thread and needle, but Rebecca may not have been a concept when Shelly and Sprout were introduced into Dandy's World, so they're a bit confused as to who the friend could be. Quell replied saying, I'd love to explore more lore at some point when able to. I've had a lot of other things pulling on my attention recently, but hearing more people want to hear more lore is great in letting me know where to focus some of my time. So again, lore is a huge part of Dandy's World. We all know that, and time is limited, so the dev team need to think about gameplay whilst also thinking about lore as well. And I think so far we've had a nice equal balance between lore updates and gameplay updates. And whilst we're talking about lore and Brussia, Quell posted an unofficial render of Brussia sitting down, and this is what it looks like. This user replied saying how Brussia feels being the only new non-lethal, non-event toon in almost 5 months. Whoa, has it been that long? And that's completely true because Brussia was our most recent non-event, non-lethal toon to be introduced into Dandy's world. And that was a long time ago. And since Brussia, we've had lethal toons and event toons, but no normal toons. Quell replied saying, 5 months? Has it? Has it been 5 months? Even Quell's a bit surprised that Brussia was the last non-event toon, the last non-lethal toon to be introduced into Dandy's world, because we had Halloween and they were all event toons. And of course Dial was a lethal toon. So it's been quite a while since we just had a normal toon being introduced into Dandy's world. So hopefully our next toon will be a permanent toon instead of an event toon. Our next topic is about Twisteds and Twisteds getting skins in the future. What? I have never heard anything like that before. Let's see what's going on. So this user asked, will there ever be skins for Twisteds? I've been seeing people do some concept art of different Twisteds and how they looked with the skin their toon owns. So basically Twisteds with different skins based on their toon counterpart. And this user's wondering, will that ever be a possibility in the future? Twisteds having skins? Quell's reply caused me some confusion. I wonder what she's talking about. So this is what Quell said. Quell said, go create a ticket. Best not to discuss stuff like this in a public channel as people chat. What does that even mean? Am I a bit confused at this response? It seems like kind of secretive. Quell said, go create a ticket. Best not to discuss stuff like this in a public channel as people chat. Does that mean that Twisted's getting skins is a possibility in the future? I wonder. It's a huge possibility because Quell didn't say no, but she said create a ticket to the user. Super weird reply. I wonder what that means. I think in the future, Twisteds might get skins. That would look so awesome. And maybe there'll be an opportunity to get research for different skins of Twisteds. Like, wouldn't that be so awesome? Speaking of Twisteds, Quell has asked the community on Discord, hey guys, what is your favorite main Twisted design? Can be gameplay and or visually. Holiday Toons mains included. So this is a question about what Twisted design people like best. This user said Bobbit, another user said V, and another user said Bobbit as well. Twisted Bobbit is very popular. She's creepy, she's huge, and she's a main Twisted as well. And this user said Sprout. Another question that Quell has asked the community on Discord is, do you have any favorite maps, floors in the game, aesthetically or gameplay wise, and why if possible? This user said, I love V's map and the Christmas maps because they're cool and unique. I agree, V's map is so cool, it's green, it's just a bit different from the other maps. And this user said, my favorite map was honestly the Halloween holiday map. V's map is really close though, so it seems like V's map is quite popular when it comes to the best maps in Dandy's world. And another question that Quell has asked the community on Dandy's world is, hey guys, quick question so I can understand you all better. What is it that got you into Dandy's world? And also, what is your favorite part about Dandy's world? This user replied saying, Shelly, that's it. So they're saying that Shelly got them into Dandy's world. So the toon and the toon design of Shelly got this user to start playing Dandy's world. That is so cool for a character to bring you into a game before you've even played the game. And this user said the Halloween event got them into Dandy's world. And they also said favorite part on how the devs are working so hard to keep the community satisfied. That is so true. I feel like the Blush Crunch studio works so hard to fix bugs because Dandy's world is one of the most unique games in Roblox. There are just so many bugs that appear every update, and the dev team have to work really hard to solve those bugs, and sometimes it takes a while to solve those bugs, but eventually the bugs do get fixed. So that's really nice that the dev team do work extra hard to make the game playable and a smooth, cool experience for the player base. Our next topic is about Astro and the future of Astro skins. This user said, hey Quell, before Astro's optimization, he only received skins with eyeshadow, and it's cool and beautiful, But in next Astro skin, will he still get eyes shadow? Like, I need more normal eyes Astro skin. So what this user is talking about is Astro's eyelids, and whether or not future Astro skins are going to have eyelids as well. Because this user is right in saying the old Astro skins never had eyelids, but after Astro's optimizations, all of Astro's newer skins all have eyelids. Quell replied saying, I suppose I didn't notice. I'll be sure to have some skins for him in the future without eyeshadow detail. I've brought onto the team and been working with a very talented artist to help me make skins ever since the Halloween update. So a lot of the skins you see aren't just made by me anymore. We must have both just been adding the detail and not noticed. So it seems like Quell and the dev team got carried away with the eyeshadow detail, Astro's eyelids, appearing on Astro's skin, and they never really noticed that they kept on adding it. So it seems some users would like if some future skins of Astro's never had the eyelids always appearing. Speaking of skins, this user said, hey Quell, who created art in Alpha Sleeper skin? I've been repainting a 3D model of Roger and I'm so in love with the aesthetic. Quell replied saying, I designed that one, so this is confirmation that Quell created the Alpha Sleeper Roger skin, for anybody wondering. Next up, we're going to talk about the Twisted Dandy buff that Quell mentioned in August. So Quell said she wanted to buff Twisted Dandy after Twisted Dial was released and Twisted Dials overshadowed Twisted Dandy, where Quell said, I do want to buff Twisted Dandy at some point. This user said, day 51 of waiting for the promised Twisted Dandy buff update. So users have been waiting a long time for this Twisted Dandy buff, and that was in August. Quell replied to the user saying, game development takes time, sorry bud. Sometimes things get moved around on the schedule. So the Twisted Dandy buff has not been scrapped. The dev team are still working on that. But as Quell said, game development takes a lot of time and things get pushed back and moved around. But in the future, we will definitely get a Twisted Dandy buff. That sounds so exciting. I'm sure the dev team have exciting plans for Twisted Dandy to match the horror that Twisted Dial poses on Toons on the dial floor. Our next topic is about the Valentine's event and whether or not we will be getting a Valentine's event next month in February. So before we get into an answer, Quell said in January 2025, which was last year, we won't be doing a Valentine's event this year sadly. I want to take the time to catch up since Christmas was late. You can expect we're a bit behind on some stuff. So that was last year. If you remember last year, January, the Christmas event was released instead of it being released in December. So it was a bit late and the dev team were unable to do a Valentine's event. And in November 2025, this user asked Quell saying, what? How are you here? Is the Valentine's update confirmed? Quell replied saying Valentine's update is not confirmed, and Quell said this in November 2025. So this was about the 2026 Valentine's update. And then in December 2025, Quell said, my favorite holiday is Valentine's. I'm actually very scared on Halloween. So Quell has told us her favorite event out of all of the holidays is Valentine's Day. So that's good news. Maybe we will get a Valentine's update. Let's carry on reading what happens. And then in January 2026, so that was a few weeks ago, this user said maybe this year. And then Quell replied saying probably not. So there's a low chance we will get a Valentine's event this year, which is so sad because the Christmas update had good timing. The Christmas update was around the 13th of December and ended mid-January. And so the dev team would have had some nice time to do a Valentine's update. But it seems like the dev team have decided to not do a Valentine's update for 2026. So that's 2 years in a row with no Valentine's Day. That is so sad. I think Valentine's would be so cool in Dandy's world. Imagine all the cool skins as well. That would be so awesome. But Quell said said probably not, so there is a small possibility that we could get a Valentine's update in February. Our next topic is about the next 3 toon optimizations, which is Brightney, Scraps and Goob are getting optimized, the last 3 toons, which is so exciting. The full cast being optimized, finally. It's been such a long road of optimizations, and that will release on Friday, 30th of January. Quell posted some behind the scenes of the new animations. So the first animation we have is of Scraps extracting a machine. As you can see, the tail is moving side to side. We have one of Goob as well extracting a machine. We also have Goob's idle animation where Goob itches his face. We have Brightney's new idle animation where she takes out a notepad. And we have Twisted Scraps' running animation, which looks awesome. If you haven't heard already, we are also getting 2 new floors as well. That sounds so exciting. Quell has given us a sneak peek into one of the new maps that we'll be releasing on Friday. Quell said, the Dandy statue, the statue of Dandy, the Dandy statue of ominous vibes. This is an art-based map, by the way. So it's going to be an art-based map like one of the most recent maps we were given. That is an art map. So it's going to be similar to that. And if we take a closer look, as you can see, there's a statue of Dandy, and Dandy has some icon on his right hand as well. And there's Tisha next to the statue for size comparison, I assume. This statue looks awesome, and I'm guessing this is the first statue we've ever had, because there is a statue of a dinosaur on the Shelly map, but that's not really a statue, is it? So this is going to be our first statue ever, and the map looks awesome. It's spacious. Distractors are going to love this map. There's so much room. I can't wait to see what the other map looks like. Hopefully Quell will give us a sneak peek into the other map before the release date. And for anyone wondering why Goobs and Scraps were last on the list to be optimized, Quell said this, which is super interesting. She said, I understand excitement for Goob and Scraps optimizations, but they'll both most likely take a bit more time, as we have to ensure their unique stretching limb features, arms for Goob and tail for Scraps, are optimized in a way on the model that allows for quality animations. I'd rather not rush those two given their unique features. So I hope that makes it understandable as to why they're specifically ending up last on the list. That makes complete sense, because Scraps and Goob's model is very unique. They have stretching limbs. I'm sure it's a nightmare to optimize all of those unique features to do with their models. Next, we're going to talk about whether or not the Golden Quests are going to return next year. This user asked, Quell, do you already know if the Golden Quest progress is saving? Quell replied saying, yeah, your Golden Quest should return next year with progress saved. That's really good news for people who are unable to complete some of the harder quests like Cole's, because Cole is a rare and people found difficulty completing Cole's quests to get the golden Cole skin. So that's awesome that next Christmas, when the golden skin line returns, you should have all of your progress saved. Next, we're going to talk about the Snow Time skin pack and whether or not it's going to return during the next Christmas event. This user asked, is the Snow Time pack going to leave with the Christmas event? I've tried asking other people, but none of them knew. So this user's wondering if the Snow Time pack was going to leave after the Christmas event. So this comment was made during the Christmas event. Quell replied saying, yes, so what it is a seasonal skin pack. So I'll take the Snow Time skins off sale after the Christmas event ends, and when the Christmas event returns later in this year, they'll be put back on sale for the same price. So the Snow Time skin pack will return next Christmas. So that's good news for anybody who was unable to buy the Snow Time skin pack last Christmas. Next, we're going to talk about a new communication feature that has been added to Dandy's World. You may have already encountered it in your game whilst playing. Quell said, little sneak peek, and as you can see, you will get a message at the top right corner of your screen when somebody uses an emote. That is so helpful, especially for users that have chat restriction because of the new Roblox rules. And next up, for anybody interested in Labubu's, Quell has a Labubu, and she says, this is my Labubu and her Latutu. As you you can see, super adorable. Just for anyone wondering what Quell's interests are, super cute. And lastly, on Quell's YouTube channel Shorts page, Quell has a new Danny's World animation. It's super cool. I really enjoyed watching it. Head over to Quell's page to take a look at the new shorts. Basically, Brightney, V and Glisten up to no good.